When you think about trade, do you usually imagine factories, containers, and goods made in Asia? What if I told you that America makes way more money by selling invisible things? By invisible, I'm talking about service trade. Things like banking, education, software, tourism, consulting, and many others. Well, the US is the world's biggest service exporter, with a huge trade surplus with almost every country it deals with. And you know what? The funny thing is, the US government loves to talk about trade imbalances in goods, but they're always downplaying just how much the US rakes in from service trade. Most of the service trade is done through digital deals, and it's easy to overlook. But trust me, this is where the real money is. It's actually a major driver for the US economy. Since the late 1990s, the US service sector's share of its overall GDP has remained above 70%, and the number keeps growing. Manufactured goods typically have profit margins under 10%, but services, they can have margins from 30% to 50% or even higher. Here's one classic: Apple's App Store commission. Let's say a Chinese developer creates an app and gets it on the App Store. Every time a user spends money on things like subscriptions or in-game currencies, the developer has to give up 30% of that revenue to Apple, forever, as long as the app stays active. Likewise, companies like Microsoft and Adobe charge billions of dollars each year for software subscriptions and licenses. And did you ever wonder why every time President Trump tried to impose stricter rules on international students, the whole college education community would kind of freak out? Here's why. In the 2023 to 2024 academic year alone, Chinese students studying in the US contributed over $14 billion in tuition and living costs. That's service trade too. For decades, the US and the rest of the world has kept this balance. Other countries send more goods to the US, and in return, the US sells more services. As the US grew wealthier, services gradually became its dominant export and now drive the economy. The funny thing is, the history keeps repeating itself. Let's go back to over 100 years ago when the US economy heavily relied on manufacturing. Back then, the US imposed the highest tariff in the world, and that high tariff rate helped build its industrial power. Now the US has already moved to the next stage. It's easy to see that countries at different stages of development have different comparative advantages. And that's why global trade is so complicated. It's not a zero-sum game. It's about working together and leveraging what each side does best. You can't just enjoy the benefits of where you are now and keep complaining that your old advantages were taken away.